When the delegates left Philadelphia in September of 1787, they carried with them a finished constitution, but it was still only paper. For it to become the law of the land, 9 of the 13 states had to ratify it. The real battle was only beginning. On one side stood the Federalists, men like James Madison and Alexander Hamilton and John Jay. They argued that the Articles of Confederation had failed and that only a stronger national government could preserve the Union, pay its debts, and defend against foreign threats. George Washington's quiet endorsement gave them credibility. On the other side stood the Anti-Federalists, including Patrick Henry, George Mason, and Luther Martin of Maryland. They feared that the Constitution created a government too distant, too powerful, and too likely to swallow up the liberties hard-won in the Revolution. Martin thundered that the Constitution was nothing less than a covenant with death and an agreement with hell. His words capture the depth of their alarm. The battle was not fought with muskets, but with pamphlets, speeches, and petitions. The Federalists organized a series of essays published in New York newspapers that defended the Constitution, point by point. Hamilton, Madison, and Jay together wrote 85 of them, known today as the Federalist Papers. They argued that the Constitution created checks and balances strong enough to prevent tyranny while giving the nation the energy it needed to survive. The Anti-Federalists answered in kind. Their writings, with titles like Cato's Letters and Brutus, warned that the new government was a trap. They claimed the Constitution was too vague, too centralized, and too ambitious. Most of all, they objected to its silence on individual rights. Where was the guarantee of freedom of speech, freedom of religion, trial by jury? A government that powerful, they said, could not be trusted without explicit limits. The fight played out state by state, and Pennsylvania ratification came quickly, but sparked street protests. In Massachusetts, the convention was deeply divided. Only by promising to add amendments protecting individual rights did the Federalists win enough skeptics. That promise became the seed of the Bill of Rights. In Virginia, the presence of Washington and Madison tipped the balance, but only narrowly. Patrick Henry thundered against the Constitution, warning it would lead to consolidated power, yet the vote carried. In New York, Hamilton faced an uphill climb in a state filled with anti-Federalist sentiment. The Federalist Papers were written partly to sway that audience. In the end, the vote for ratification passed by just a handful of delegates. Without New York, the Union might have been geographically divided. With it, the Constitution gained both legitimacy and momentum. By June of 1788, 9 states had ratified, and the Constitution became official. But the fight left its mark. Many Americans still distrusted the new government. The Federalists had won the structure they wanted, but the Anti-Federalists had forced a concession. Within 2 years, the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, were adopted, guaranteeing freedom of speech, press, religion, assembly, and more. The new government was stronger, but liberty had been written into its very foundations. The ratification struggle was the Constitution's trial by fire. It showed that the document was not a sacred text handed down from on high, but a plan debated, defended, doubted, and finally accepted through compromise. When the Constitution took effect in 1789, it carried both the hopes of the Federalists and the warnings of the Anti-Federalists. Its durability would come not from perfection, but from the fact that it had survived its first test in the public square.